correspondence on Assalamualaikum and Namaskar to all our esteemed guests from India, our honorable colleagues, faculty members, beloved students, and everyone in the audience. Department of Business Administration and Institutional Quality Assurance Cell of Dhaka International University collaboratively presents today's third international lecture series on banking and international trade. I'm Sadia, Assistant Professor from Business Department, who will be here as the host for today's lecture. The program is going to be chaired by the Honorable Vice Chancellor of Dhaka International University, Professor Dr. Mohsin. As the inaugural speaker, we have Associate Professor Azmir Hossain sir from Business Department. And our distinguished speaker, as our distinguished speaker of the session, we have Professor Guruprasad. I'd like to give a brief introduction of this honorable person. Professor Guruprasad started his career with banking industry while he joined Axis Bank as an executive of operations. He has worked in all the major departments, including the foreign exchange, credit, and relationship management. And he also joined one of the world's largest banks, named ABN AMRO, which is now the Royal Bank of Scotland, and he worked there as an associate relationship manager. But he has always had a passion towards teaching, which made him to join the Department of Commerce, Manipal University, as a lecturer in 2009, where he handles subjects like banking, e-business, corporate governance, strategic management, etc. Currently, he is the principal of Trisha Vidya College of Commerce and Management in Karnataka, India, which is affiliated to Mangalore University. Professor Rao is one of the youngest principal among 204 colleges which are affiliated to Mangalore University. His research papers were also accepted and were called for presentation in both national and international conferences. He has presented his papers across 21 different countries and also won the Best Paper Award at the Oxford University, England, for his paper on green banking. He has also won the Best Paper Award at the conference in Dubai, Thailand, and also United States. Professor Guruprasad Rao is currently pursuing his PhD in the field of banking at Lovely Professional University in Punjab. He is also the Certified Financial Education Resource Person of Security and Exchange Board of India and holds membership in many national and international bodies. He has also received various national and international awards for teaching and research excellence. Thank you so much, sir. We are absolutely delighted to have you here with us. Before coming to you, I'd request the chairperson of today's session, Professor Dr. K. Mohsin, sir, Vice Chancellor at Dhaka International University, to please give his valuable speech. Thank you. Sir, VC, sir, your speech, sir. Sir, we cannot hear you. Yes. I'd request Khalikuzaman Bhai to unmute, sir. Can you do this, please? Except Hossain. Okay. Okay, somebody is helping.
Can you hear me now? Yeah. Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Sir, we can hear you, sir.
Oh. Okay.
Sir, our session has already started. Can you, sir?
Okay.
Your valuable speech, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. I would now like to request Professor Guruprasad Rao to present his lecture to the audience, learned audience. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, sir. Before going to Guruprasad Rao, I would request then Associate Professor Azmir Hossain, sir, to give his inaugural speech. Thank you.
Thank you, Assistant Professor Sadia Mahjabeen, Madam. I am very much grateful to Dhaka International University Authority, Director IQAC Shirazul Islam Pradhan, Head of the Department S.A. Khan, and my dear colleagues, viewers of different departments of this university. You all are welcome into this international lecture series that will be speech given by Professor Guruprasad Rao. Already described a brief profile of Mr. Prasad by our Assistant Professor Sadia Mahjabeen. And from this profile, we have learned a lot of things about Mr. Prasad, that he has a lot of experiences in banking sector as well as in education sector. We, on behalf of this university and different departments, students, eagerly waiting to hear different lectures about banking and international trade from our distinguished speaker, Mr. Prasad. We hope that Mr. Prasad will give us valuable lectures about the present scenario of banking industry globally. We hope that Mr. Prasad will also give us the economic growth which will be or which are affected directly by the banking industry as well as international trade. Mr. Prasad will give us valuable speech about global facts in banking industry as well as in international trade. What is the connectivity between these two areas that we'll learn from our distinguished speaker today. Dear viewers, we also hear about a lot of things about next decade preparation of the banking industry as well as the international trade industry, as well as to recover the economic slow position for COVID-19 pandemic and post-pandemic situation, how the banking industry and international trade will overcome. We also learn from Mr. Prasad. And different export and import policy from international trade area. We will learn from Mr. Prasad. So I will not continue more. On behalf of Dhaka International University and Prasad Rao, the principal of Trisha Vidya College of Commerce and Management, in this lecture series. Ms. Sadia Mahjabeen, you give the floor to our distinguished speaker. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for your valuable speech. I'd like to mention a few thanks. Such programs won't have been possible without the endless support and contribution of Barrister Shamim Haidar Patwari sir, MP and Chairman Board of Trustees, Dhaka International University, and also Director, Institutional Quality Assurance Cell, Dhaka International University, Dr. Shirazul Islam Pradhan sir. Sir, I'd like to hear a few words from you. Shirazul Islam Pradhan sir.
Thank you very much, Sadia ma'am. Really speaking, it's a great assembly from both sides, and Professor Guruprasad Rao and all team will have good contribution as well as very dense exchange of views and knowledge. I would like to get the grand success of today's lecture series. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your endless support and contribution for making this teaching and learning, online teaching and learning process an effective one for us. I'd like to mention that this program is being telecasted live in Dhaka International University's Facebook page, website, and also on our YouTube channel. I'd like to give the link for the Facebook channel, Facebook link, facebook.com/diu.net.pd. We are being telecasted live there. And before going to the main session, I'd like to remind the audience, please drop your questions in the comment section, or you can give it directly to me so that I can present the questions to our honorable speaker. So let's not keep you waited anymore. Let's hear it from the man himself, Dr. Guruprasad Rao. I think our honorable session speaker is having some technical problem. He'll be joining very soon.
You have to unmute yourself. Am I audible now?
Yes, sir. You're fine.
I'm sorry. There's a huge rainfall which is happening in this part of the place in India, and there were some network issues of that. All right. Am I good to go with your permission?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Of course.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right. Good evening, all the wonderful students out there from Dhaka International University. Good evening, distinguished guest, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Dhaka University, K. Mohsin sir, Professor Azmir Hossain sir, my good friend, Professor Sirajuddin sir, Madam Sadia. It's been a great privilege and honor for me to be with all of you on this very important day, where it's indeed a great privilege for me to address on the lecture series organized by the Dhaka International University. Before I get into this, let me cherish my memories. A couple of months back, I had a great opportunity to visit Bangladesh. That was my first visit to Bangladesh, and the first visit to DIU, where the whole perception about the country and the whole perception about the education industry was, absolutely changed. The kind of mindset I had and the kind of mindset I had after coming back from the institution is just incredible. I was simply amazed by the facilities over there and the excellent leadership of my good friend, and I call him as my role model, the chairman of the board of trust of the Dhaka International University, Barrister Shamim Haidar Patwari sir, whom I just had an interaction a while ago and had requested him to be a part of the session. Unfortunately, he is quite busy with his schedules, but otherwise, yes, I am always supportive to any kind of activities with the DIU. And I thank Sadia ma'am for that wonderful introduction. I thank Sirajuddin sir for all the coordination here. And with no time, I would like to go ahead with my talk, and I would like to share my screen a while ago. Before I do that, I would like to inform all the students that I would be talking on two parts. One is the banking scenarios, and followed by the international trade. Please, as and when I talk about it, if you have any questions, you may please note the same. And probably at the end, you can raise it a few minutes. We can have absolute discussions on, any clarification that you need to ask. You can write it down to Sadia ma'am or directly to me. I would be more than happy to take at the end. All right. Yes, can somebody please confirm that my screen is visible?
Yes, sir, your screen is visible.
Great. So here it is. My name is Guruprasad, and as already the introduction is given by ma'am, I would be talking about the banking and international trade. I'm currently heading this prestigious institution called Trisha Group of Institution in my country, which is in Karnataka, and various commerce-related programs, both undergraduate and at the post-graduation level. As here I said, my perception towards the whole institution and the country got changed because of this one man, who I always consider my role model because of the kind of leadership that he has displayed, not only in taking this institution to a greater heights, but also his incredible efforts to serve the people, being the member of Parliament of Bangladesh. You guys are really lucky to have him as your, the chairman of the trust. I had many interactions with him. Always, in fact, I had invited for him for many of the interactions for the students at my institutions, and a couple of occasions he has accepted, and we had a great discussion altogether. So my heartfelt thanks to Barrister Shamim Haider Patwari sir for this wonderful opportunity given to me. All right, so students, banking is something which is the bread and butter of economy, and this is a very right topic I've decided to speak on today, because considering the fact, despite of all the pandemic situations that has happened around, I think the whole nation, the whole globe today is facing a lot of hiccups and a lot of challenges with respect to the banking sector. And Professor Azmir was rightly talking about the link between the banking and international trade. But I feel these are the two pillars of an economy, and that's the reason why I have taken this topic today, because these two can be a game changer. These two can be a game changer for a country like India, for a country like Bangladesh, for any emerging countries. This can take your country altogether to a different level. And this is what is the success behind the developed nations like US, Canada, or some part of the European nations. So that's the reason why I've taken this topic. Another reason, I've been doing a lot of research with these scenarios, and I have been doing also my research, my PhD studies, my doctoral studies in the area of the banking, with special reference to BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, and South Africa and China. But otherwise, this has always been an interest because of the fact that I worked in the banking industry for some time. So I thought this would be the apt topic. And since I'm addressing to their business administration students, I'm very sure this topic also will interest them to have an insight about the world banking scenario and the global scenario, and also on the international trade. So if you can quickly have the outlook, what is happening today, every sector for that matter is going on in its own way of disruption. And in the banking, I see there's a lot of disruptions from the technological aspects. So what is a bank? I mean, just quickly, for those students who are not familiar with, but otherwise, I understand that the banking sector in Bangladesh has also seen a great transformation. So they play a major role in transforming the economy by introducing various policies and measures. Inclusive growth is what everyone is looking. A country like India or Bangladesh, where we have all segments of society, from richer to the richer, and the poverty below poverty line, what you call. You have all segments of societies in our country, as well as Bangladesh and many other Asian countries. You need to have a very inclusive approach of the banking industry. So the roots of disruption today, what is happening in the banking sector, is definitely the technology, yes, and a lot of economical and geopolitical changes, demographic and environmental changes, though remains the same. But the way of disruption has already started, and this is going to be definitely a game changer in the coming days. So the question is, are we ready for this? Are we ready to take to the next level, despite of what is happening around in the last couple of months due to pandemic? Plus, the wave of disruption has caused its own hiccups in the banking industry. So it's up to us. How do we consider this disruption in a most positive manner? So the key driver, as I said, the key driver, especially for the emerging economies like India, Bangladesh, and many other Asian countries, I feel the key driver would be the technology. I'm very sorry to say, in my, the India, the technological integration is not up to the mark. You know that we are one of the largely populated country of 135 crores. And I'm putting my facts very straight here. 60% of the population only have a bank account. There is as good as 40% of the banking unbanked populations. So that's the one part of the story. A second part of the story, if I talk about the technological aspects over here, there are about 300 crore smartphone users. I mean, there are 300 crore smartphones in our country, but then the percentage of population who's actively involved in the technological banking is just around 15 to 20%. It's really unacceptable. I mean, we are in 2020 and integration only to 20% is definitely not acceptable. We have a long way to go. And that too, when I'm saying that technology would be the key driver in this country, we have a long way to go. But the same technological drive has caused major transformations in many of the countries. So what I would like to tell you here is that please make a note from now on, for next 1 decade to 2030, if you can keep a target, the main driver that's going to change the face of the banking industry for any country, be it China, be it India, be it Bangladesh or Indonesia or any country, this is going to be the change that the banking will witness in the next 1 decade. So yes, so I have here the students here, the business administration students who are, always talks about numbers and all that. So I have made my PPT with a lot of statistics, with a lot of numbers. That numbers should interest you, right? We are all commerce students, we are all business administration students. Numbers should interest us. And by the way, I just want to inform all the lovely students out there that this particular slide has already been shared to your faculty. And I'm sure post this particular session, the slide will be shared to all of you, right? So don't worry if there is any thing that is missed out, you'll have this information with you. But let's have a quick review of what is happening around with respect to the banking scenarios. The US, undoubtedly, when I talk about banking, I need to mention about US. Now, this is one country which has excelled in every sector. And the one driver that has changed maximum, whether it is space research, banking research, economy, defense, you talk about anything about US sector, the one thing that has caused a major change is the technology. So if I talk about US banking industry, it has shown a modest improvement in most of the areas. The return of capital stood at 18%, supported by the strong return of assets at 1.5%. So total assets were 16.5 trillion, and that's like 3% of previous year. There is a growth, and here they are unstoppable. They're unstoppable. They have seen a lot of ups and downs. No one will remember. I mean, no one will forget the 2008, the depression that we saw. A lot of the banks suffered, but then yes, they have their own policies and measures. The Federal Reserve, which is the regulatory of the banking sector in US, has done some incredible policy framing there, where the banking industry has seen a lot of transformation despite of a lot of volatility in the economic front. Canada, students, you should watch this country for the next 1 decade. This is gonna be the game changer. Canada is slowly coming up massively behind the screen and nobody is aware about it. Be it the political structure, wow, there's just amazing political structure. I just want to tell you why, because I've been visited Canada a couple of times. I just love their structure. Prime Minister is just like 42, 43-year-old, all right? And the health minister is a doctor. The education minister is a double PhD holder. Science minister is a scientist. Defense minister is from Punjab. I mean, he's an Indian origin, Sikh, we call him Sikh, right? And youth minister is just around 2021. And the sports minister is an Olympic gold medal winner. I mean, that's what I call the right man in the right job. Don't you agree with that, students? Yes. And this is how the Canada is showing a slow transformation. And this is going to make a lot of havoc in the next coming decade. This is a country to be watched. Any sector you take, whether you take a banking sector, whether you take the political structure, whether you take academics industry, a lot of students are now going towards Canada because slowly they have shifted their concern from US to Canada. And as I said, even the banking industry has shown some major transformations since a decade. And now the percentage has grown up to $4 trillion, dollars of Canadian dollars, mainly driven by the mortgages and loans which are being given to the individuals and businesses, right? And they were also able to, manage very well during the COVID pandemic, despite of the being very close to America. They managed to control to a greater extent because of the all support from the government and the citizens in general. Well, I have taken a lot of trips around European sector, and whenever I travel to different countries, what I always do is I visit mandatory 2 places. I am a teacher, so definitely I visit a school or a college which is nearby to my hotel. And second, I just drop into any of the banks because I was a banker before and I'm doing my PhD in the area of banking. So definitely I'd like to get into any of these banks, see them how they work. And why I said this is 2017, I just went into a bank which was very closely attached to my hotel. When I understood, it was a very small bank. The two youngsters were there when I went inside the bank, and there was no one else. The two handsome youngsters were sitting in the table with their laptop. I just went and spoke to them, and I found out that they were the founders of that bank. All right, they just opened that bank probably 6 months before, and within no span of time, they had almost 12,500 customers, and not even a single customers have come to the branch to open their account. Everything was done online, and that's the only one branch, and there are no employees. There are only two handsome guys over there who are the chairman, who are the clerical staff, who are the housekeeping staff, everything. I mean, this is just wow. I mean, somebody like people coming from my country like India, I could never imagine somebody running a bank of 12,500 customers by just two people. Can you imagine? Just two people. There's a bank just next to my house where doesn't even have 1,000 plus customers. There are about 15 staff working over there. All right, I'm not giving a comparative study here, but that's the reality. Somebody is running, the youngsters are running a bank, doing amazingly. Integration to the technology is simply amazing. So European banks are still preoccupied with rationalizing their businesses. Their ROC also stood at meager 10.2% in 2018. But what happened here is, I think you're all aware about the recent changes, which is called as Brexit. I hope the students are aware about Brexit. You can please make a note. Brexit. Brexit is Britain's exit. Britain's exit from European Union was referred as Brexit. They are no more a part of European Union. This proposal was given almost 2 to 3 years back, but recently, probably a year back or 6 months back, it was approved officially. And that's not a healthy sign for many European nations. There's a big debate whether UK should get out or not. But then it's a matter of debate. And people said many countries wanted that to happen, and there were many other countries who did not want it to that happen. But now it has already happened, and some of the European countries are not very happy with that. So I mean, it's going to take some time. But otherwise, European banking are in a real safe hands. They are doing really well. All right. The story in Asia is quite mixed. The Chinese bank continue to get bigger. I mean, they are amazing. They are, sometimes when I talk to students, they say, for any problem that I ask, they say, what can be the reason behind this problem? They say, population. No, come on, population cannot be a problem. Population can be, it's the way you talk about your perception. Population, how it can be a positive, you have to learn from China. They are the densely populated country in the world with 140 crore plus population. And what are we talking? Come on. They have a much more than a banking population than India. Their integration to the technological banking is also much more than India or any other Asian countries. So is population a problem? Definitely not. Banks in Japan China is really continuing to do wonders over there, and they're able to tap most of the rural to the rural areas. Inclusive banking is what I call is definitely yes, and you have to learn from them. And I have been to the places like Guangzhou, Beijing, and Shanghai. They are just incredible when it comes to the banking operations. So yes, but currently the situations are not that great for everyone because of the pandemic, and there's so many other issues which have happened. But in the long run, they are definitely gonna excel in the banking industry. And there are a lot of banks in the top 100 in the world. Let me tell you, there are not even one Indian bank or any other Asian banks in top 50 in the world, and you have many from the from China. That's something that we have to learn from them. Yes, there is one institution called Banking Industry Country Risk Assessment. I'm not sure whether you're able to view the screen properly, but the font is a bit low, but then don't worry. I'll just tell you what exactly it is. And anyways, this slide is going to be shared to all of you. This is a slide which talks about the current risk of the banking industry in the respective countries, where many of the countries, if you could see the color red over there, have moved from stable condition to the negative condition. There are very few which are into the positive trend I'm talking about right now. I'm talking about the current situation because of the pandemic, right? Mexico has lowered, South Africa has been lowered, India has been lowered, Iceland, Oman, Costa Rica, Sri Lanka, Tunisia, right? And there are some European countries also which have gone to the negative from stable, and there are very few who have actually gone to the stable from negative. The country's position as of now with respect to the banking is quite challenging. It's quite volatile. And that's the temporary situation. Let me tell you, it's a temporary situation. I'm very sure probably a years down the line, probably a 2 years down the line maximum, all will be, into the normalcy. There will be something new normalcy that we call that all this country, to one point of time, if you look at Russia, I mean, Russia is also going quite low. The current situation is like that. We are all joining hands now to come out of such situations. But otherwise, these countries have all ability and capacity to bounce back in the manner in which they were there before. All right. So what to expect 2020 and beyond? I don't think so anyone will forget the year 2020, right? For the kind of the disasters it has caused the whole globe. I mean, it's really, really heartening to see such kind of situation. But yes, what I always feel is that everything happens for good. I'm very sure that whatever we saw from day one of the 2020, the upcoming days, the upcoming years will be the most comfortable one. And I'm very sure that we'll all be seeing the new life, which is very, very new, which is very, very, energetic and positive than what we're expecting right now. All right. So, US, the current problem there is unemployment. Otherwise, my favorite president, Donald Trump in Bangladesh. But then, yeah, there's a lot of support from India to Donald Trump in the upcoming elections. So I don't know. It is a Trump and Joe Biden. The recent survey said it's 50-50. I mean, wow, that's something that I never saw. That kind of exit poll results is 50-50. The last time such thing happened was way back in 2000 between George Bush and Al Gore. So yes, having said that, US is actually facing a lot of unemployment problems. So Deloitte, which is a famous accounting company and tax-related company, has forecasted that the probability of US recession in the coming year at 25% is similar to the last year. See, one thing you should all know that people are more concerned about US. You know why? Why people are most bothered about US? The simple reason is every one of them has a trade relationship with US, right? 75% of the international trade happens in US dollar, mind you, students. And people are really bothered about it. So if United States falls, it is as good as everyone else falls, right? So everyone are really concerned about US because everyone has directly or indirectly has involved with the US in some trade activities, one or the other, right? So that's pertaining to the US. So G7, there's a grouping called as G7. I'm very sure my students here must be knowing about G7, ASEAN, SAARC, G20. So you have countries like Japan, Germany, Italy, UK are in a similar situation or worse currently, but globally IMF has forecasted slower worldwide GDP growth of 3% in 2021. What I'm telling you here is the current situation is there, but then the after effects will continue for the next few years. And all this country over here, whether it is US or the G7 or the G20, including India, probably will take a couple of more years to settle down. While I was having a chat with the chief economic advisor of Government of India, who happens to be the good friend of mine, who unofficially said to me, India has gone like 10 to 12 years back. See, that's something, this is really very, the lockdown, what we imposed, the economy was drastically hit. Economy was drastically hit. We were forced to go for unlockdown measures, keeping in also mind the number of cases that has been increasing. But then, how are you in an affordable position to take your country backwards, right? So he says almost 10 to 12 years. Now look at that. I mean, if you want to bring that 12 years back, what is the struggle that India and many other countries are supposed to do for the next few years? So all this situation will take some time to get into normalcy. So how should bank prepare for the next decade? A very important question to all the banks over here. How should bank prepare for the next decade? Be it any country from US to Australia, what they're supposed to do for the next 10 years. Let me tell you, first of all, they should stick to their basic business. Banks these days are not just the banks like, 15, 20 years back who used to just take deposits and give loans. I hope you agree with me. There are so many products today the bank has added and they're doing a lot of cross-selling. I think now it's high time that bank gets into some basic business what they were supposed to do, and take care of all this disruption what is happening on the side. Like technology, bank is also facing lot of challenges over there. With technology, solution comes, no doubt about it, but it also invites a lot of trouble. I'm very sure you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the cyber crime rates, which has also been increasing in the worldwide. With the technology, there is also a possible threat of illegal hacking, phishing, and so many other things. And we, at least in India and some Asian countries, we would not like to see any of this getting into a breach of trust, because the whole banking industry, I'm very sure you will agree with this point, the whole banking industry runs with the major mantra, or the major, what do you call, the game-changing policy, which is called as not the Reserve Bank of India or Federal Reserve, whatever it is. It is just because of trust. I hope you'll agree with me. The trust the citizens of your country, of our country, and the bank enjoys. The whole thing is running on this. So what I feel is that sit quietly, don't get into unrelated business. The next 1 decade is very crucial. You have to do the business what you are otherwise supposed to do, and stick to your basics, right? Don't go for hefty investments, and don't go for diversifying a lot of products. Stick to your basics, what you were there before, and make sure that there's a lot of technological implementation. At the same time, there's a lot of control mechanism over there. All right, students. So that's with respect to, with respect to the banking. I think I'm absolutely on time. I devoted 20 minutes for banking and 20 minutes for international trade. So that's the banking scenarios. To summarize what I'm actually telling you is that we're all facing a tough situations right now. But at the same time, I'm saying the situation what we are facing is temporary, and we will definitely see a U-turn. And we will definitely see a U-turn, and would like to have a new thing which is happening, new normalcy. The new positive wave will definitely hit, and things will be into a controlled situation very soon. But I should really appreciate the banking sector, the Bangladesh as well. What I like with the Bangladesh banking sector is that you all agree with me. They were able to crack this inclusive growth in a very best possible manner. I think Bangladesh banks, with the help of the central bank, were able to touch the poorest to the poor, and they were also able to tap the market which is in the rural areas. I think somewhere as an India we have failed to do so, but then we have a lot of policies and a lot of banks like regional rural banks, and there are so many other institutions which are working towards rural development. But I really appreciate the measures taken by the Bangladesh government and the Bangladesh banks to tap the rural market, because we always believe, if you want the country to be developed, first you develop the rural part of the country, right? So that's very, very important, and that's the key. All right, students. So that's where I end with the banking part of it, with saying that the situation is volatile right now, but the situation is going back. And also, what you're supposed to do as a banking sector, you stick to your normal business, wait and watch, don't diversify your product, and make sure that technological integration gets improved. So this is what the banking industry should do for the next 10 years. All right. So what is international trade? The other new important topic, biggest, why I took this, both the topics are like a game changer for a country like India and Bangladesh. I hope all of you will agree there, right? And I was amazed with the statistics of the, ma'am, I should really tell you, I was really amazed when I saw the international trade statistics of Bangladesh. It was eye-opener. It was really, really eye-opener. So I was really happy that I was invited to speak on this topic, so that I was able to do more research, and I was able to find out some information which I was never knew, and there's so much of eye-opener here. Great. So let's see what exactly I'm talking about. So students, I'm very sure there might be one subject for you on the international business or international trade, but still, if you have not, I'll give you a just basic idea about what it is. It's a legal exchange of goods and services between two countries. Today we all talk about globalization. I think the globalization is also a very old concept now. What I use the word in my college is glocal. It's not global, it's glocal. It's local now. Whole world belongs to you. Come on, who's going to stop you? You can sell your product wherever you want. Is there anyone to stop you? Absolutely no. The whole globe is your market area today. So I use the word glocal, G-L-O-C-A-L, because there are absolutely no restrictions for you to sell your products. Anyways, so that's international trade. It also takes place when consumer is in one country gets into import of goods and services from a foreign producer. So there are two important concepts in a foreign trade. You have to remember that. I hope many of you know about it. It's called as an export and an import. Export is something where you send your product to another country, and import is something where you buy from another country. Why do have to engage? A country has to absolutely yes. Every country involves in international trade. Now here it is. This slide very well explains you what it's all about. An import is a product that is purchased from the international sources, as I said. The product of the country exports those which has an efficiency producing. Like, for example, I'll tell you, we export those products which we are having abundant. We have plenty of it, plus which we are expert in. We are really expert in it. I take an example of Japan here. Japan does huge exports of electronics and automobiles because it manufactures very efficiently than other countries, right? Now, country might also export its natural resources. For example, you have a brilliant example of where Saudi Arabia and Middle East countries here, they are, oil rich. Today, the whole automobile sector, the oil is being provided by the oil rich countries like Saudi Arabia, Middle East, US, Mexico. The best part of them, oil wells. But there are rumors, that Saudi and UAE all will have their oil wells by 2030. But I don't think so. They have the backup plan ready. But oil is something, a game changer. But yes, I have seen many countries sending their natural resources, iron ore. And there are so many other things, right? So in short, what I'm trying to tell you here, students, if I'm good in something, I will export that. If I'm not able to produce that particular good in my country, what will I do? I will import that, right? So that's what, because if the same thing I start manufacturing here, it's very difficult for me. For me, in the sense India, it is easy to import electronics from Japan rather than manufacturing it here because we are not expertise in that. Japan is expertise in that. So Japan will give me those products which they are good at, and India will give those products which we are good at. So this is how the balance of international trade happens. So yes, country has to engage with buying and selling. You know why? Most importantly, why you are supposed to do this? The most important reason why a country engages with import and export is because that builds the beautiful relationship between the two countries. This, I'll tell you, you cannot compare, you cannot measure it. For example, US imports a lot of spare parts and other products from India, though they have their own products over there. Why? Because India enjoys US enjoys a good relationship with India, right? So sometimes you cannot look everything in money. No, money is one thing. Relationship matters a lot. And I'm most happy to tell you that last 10 years, India has absolutely gained a lot of advantage because of the fact that it enjoys a beautiful relationship with other countries. Why? Trade is one such measure. So yes, every country involves a international trading activity between the two countries. Now, let's have a look at the global scenario. Here it is. So economic globalization as a result of rapidly increasing global trade, world trade is expected to fall. Look at that. World trade is expected to fall between 13 to 32% in 2020 because of COVID-19. If you have listened to my Prime Minister talking about the economic conditions, he said, to an extent, we have to stop and we have to be vocal for local. We have to be vocal for local. You have to start using our own products so that first, there is a good saying, right? Charity begins at home. Our situation is very bad right now. So let's go Swadeshi. Swadeshi means buying those products which are manufactured in India, right? Some point of time, I think we have to stop now getting into the foreign products because our economy itself in danger. I'm not only talking about India, I'm talking about all these emerging economies in Asia and other countries. I think everyone now should be vocal for local so that once the economy is back in track, then they can definitely get into import and exports. World Trade Organization. I hope you are aware about this organization called as WTO, and it has projected that there will be a fall between 13 and 32% in 2020 just because of the pandemic that has been prevailing in this globe. Now look at this. Now next few of the slides will be just from the numbers, students, to make you get a bit of excited. Everyone spoke about financial crisis, financial crisis, financial crisis. Nobody knew that the trade aspect of it has fallen much, much below than the financial crisis. I mean, the situation is really very bad. I just again go back to, I'm really sorry, I forgot that speaker name initially introduced about it. There is a link between these two, definitely. The exchange of flow of currency between two countries happens when there is a trade, right? So trade has drastically fallen down than the financial crisis. Look at that. 27% is what is happening from the COVID-19 period for all the countries at global level. And that will add ghee to the fire for your financial crisis also. Very less effort have been made to understand. People only talked about financial crisis and economic crisis. Nobody otherwise bothered to find out what exactly the state of affairs have happened in the global trade level. Look at this. All these countries, look at that. March, April, May, you know what happened in March, April, May. That's where the major, the pandemic got struck. And every country, to a greater extent, had a dip. This I'm talking about imports. You talk about China, you talk about European Union as a whole, you talk about Japan, you talk about US, the imports have fallen down, and it is not as same what it was in January or before that. And March, April, May is altogether something which is really, really unexpected. I'm talking about the 2020 data, and this data was officially published by the World Trade Organization. The same case with the export also. If you look at the whole scenarios here, there is expect in one of the quarter in in African nations, you can all see the red over there. The complete international trade activity has fallen down dramatically. This is a clear indication of what COVID has done to the global economic scenario, especially with specific reference to the trade. You look at there in the North America, look at South America, look at Africa there, look at European Union as a whole, look at Australia, right? Look at Middle East. There's a drastic dip. I could call it as a dramatic dip in the international trade activities. If you ask me, which are the sectors that has fallen down? Look at this. There's still an eye opener here. Look at automotive sector. Can you believe it has gone to 49% dip, minus 49%? That blue, please note, the one which you can see in blue is something related to April, and the one you can see in red is related to the first quarter in January and February. Look at what has happened post that. Look at the blue lines going every, whether it is agri-food, there is a minus. Look at automotive, amazing, minus 49% is something unbelievable. Look at chemicals, minus 14. Look at communication equipment, electrical machinery, energy has gone to almost minus 39%. Machineries, metal and ore, office machineries, there's a drastic dip everywhere. I think office machinery was somehow at the positive at the 8%, but rest of the sectors at the global level stood at negative. First of all, before pandemic also, I think you are aware that automotive industry was not doing that great. And now that has added ghee to the fire here again. And you could see the dip happening across all the sectors. For students, I again want to interrupt and tell you here that this is temporary. The pandemic has caused this situation. Things will get back to the normal quite soon. And then all these blue ones which you are seeing will definitely get into the positives. But I think we have to wait and watch for that. There's a lot of policy changes that are going to happen at the WTO level and the respective central government level. As I said, India has imposed that, be vocal for local. So similarly, many countries have taken their own steps to protect their economy. So once that is set, all these things will be back to track. And by 2025 or 2030, this will see again a vital jump wherever required. This is of the exports also, as I said, if our concentration be more April and May, it's quite increasing for some countries while dipping for more countries because the whole activity was stopped because of the lockdown, because of the pandemic. So whether it is China, European sector as a whole, whether it is Japan, whether it is Korea, or whether it is US, everyone have faced issues and problems with respect to the international trade. So a lot of reds over there, very much of reds, which is dipping than what they used to happen in the first quarter. All right, this is something that really, really amazed me. The fact check of Bangladesh, which I suppose, because since I'm addressing the students of the Bangladesh, you'll be very well aware about the fact, which is more, but why I put here is I was really taken aback. International Monetary Fund says Bangladesh is all set to overtake India in per capita GDP. This was something that, none of us could digest. All right, let me put that very straight. But then, yes, the per capita GDP is expected to be at around US dollar 2000 in case of Bangladesh in 2020, while India is just touching at $1,800. So this is an IMF statement. It is neither the Bangladesh government is talking about it, neither the opposition party in India is talking about it. This is the report from Bangladesh. IMF, International Monetary Fund. Till 5 years ago, India's GDP was nearly 40% higher than Bangladesh, and in the last 5 years, Bangladesh per capita GDP has grown at a compound growth of 9.1% compared to 3.3% growth reported by India during the same period. Wow. Bangladesh GDP in the last few years has averaged around 8% according to the reports. And look at that. HSBC has predicted that Bangladesh would be the 26th largest economy in the world by 2030. I think that's something really you're looking forward. And you have readers like Shamim Haider Patwari and so many who will make that possible. I'm very sure about it. Right? China is Bangladesh's largest trading partner. I'm very sure you're aware about it, with the annual bilateral trade valued at $15 billion. Trade with India is only slightly more, not even a third of the amount of that. Look at that export of that. It has shipped almost 45 billion worth of goods around the globe in 2019. Almost it is a 44% increase since 2015. Don't you think that's something really amazing? Yes. Students, I'll tell you, this is the game changer, I'll tell you. That is why I picked this topic very aptly. At the time of situation, any country for that matter, the countries like Bangladesh, countries like India, for us, the bread and butter is only two things. The pillar is only two things, the banking sector and your international trade. And that is where you can clearly see where a country like India is going and where the country like Bangladesh, what it was a decade back and where it is going now. I'm really happy to see that. This is the top 10 exports of Bangladesh. Look at that. Your night or crochet clothing, accessories. No doubt, the moment you hear about Bangladesh, we talk about your clothing accessories. And last time when I happened to visit you, I happened to visit some of the shops to buy some clothes, and my wife was really amazed with the kind of the material with the garments that I purchased. That was really, really good. Yeah. So 44% of total exports happens in just accessories and clothing. Clothing accessories again 42% over there, 19 billion. Footwear, miscellaneous textiles, paper yarn, fish. These are the top 10 which has contributed to the Bangladesh export strategies for their economic growth. And this is definitely going to be on a higher scale in the coming days. It's not going to come down. I hope I'm keeping my facts.
Sorry to interrupt you, sir, but you have 2 minutes left to finish your speech.
Absolutely. I'm already on that. Yes. Okay. So quickly, all this pandemic and situations and everything, what would be the trend that would be in the near future? So you could see the slowing economic growth. You could see the export opportunities in the service sector. China can be a game changer because you know what is happening between China and US right now. They're all into trade wars and somebody else is taking the benefit of that. There are so many countries who are actually watching this two trade wars between China and US. And there will be a lot of other countries who will be benefiting around it. Tariff workarounds. Many countries are working around this, reworking on the tariff just because of the rift between the US and China. Supply chain is going to be the game changer. I hope you know the concept called as logistics and supply chain. That's going to be the game changer. And yes, this is something you should know, that even in India and Bangladesh, there are a lot of SMEs, the small and medium scale enterprises are planning to go global. Very, very important. Look at their vision. The small scale enterprises also thinking to go global is something really amazing. And country like, again, India and a lot of Asian countries to be very, very careful about their, consumer driven data privacy. A lot of countries are working towards this. All right. So yes, I'm absolutely on time. And I wish to take some questions from students, if any. I hope I was able to do justice, though this topic was very huge. Managed to get into some basics in 45 or 50 minutes of time. But then I would definitely like to take questions, if any. And I had a word with Shamim sir. I would definitely like to visit your institution once again so that I can have a face-to-face interaction with all of you, probably on the same topic. Yes, ma'am. Over to you, ma'am.
We would be delighted to have you, sir. Sir, let us go to the question answer session directly. So the first question came from Dr. Shirajul Islam Pradhan, sir. He asked that the bank interest rate of Bangladesh is rapidly decreasing. How about the bank interest of India? What is the current
It's quite similar here. I expected this question. It's something similar here because the current situation is happening like that. So the interests are drastically falling down. It is not healthy from the consumer point of view. But then we all know that why this is happening. And there are a lot of bank mergers is happening in India. I mean, you might have heard about it. A lot of banks are joining hands together and getting merged. We are having a huge number of banks which have now only come down to 12 numbers. There's a lot of mergers are happening. There's a lot of circus which is happening. There's a lot of policy which is happening. But if you're talking about interest rate, yes, that is the same case in India as well.
Another question from our student came that as the technology will be including with banking and also technology will help developing banking areas, there will be more risk and get hacked and losing. How can we increase the trust of the citizens on this technological banking, online banking?
Wonderful question. Sujan, if I can see that Sujan there, thanks for this question. But let me tell you, this is a very apt question. As I was already mentioning about it, the technological disruptions of technology, the more and more it comes, it brings in solution. At the same time, it brings in a lot of challenges. But I'm very happy to inform you that the hacking and whatever you mentioned over there, hacking or this phishing or cybercrime activity related to banking has drastically come down in India. Drastically. In fact, I can openly tell you there are absolutely no cases of a single banking fraud with the technology in the last couple of years. Only sometimes with a silly mistake from the customer might have led, but a hacker has failed to make a successful attempt to our internet technologies, banking technologies, and all that. But same here in Bangladesh as well. I mean, you are very rightly in saying the more and more such issues happen, then the bank will lose its trust. The citizens will definitely lose its trust. As I already said you, if the banking has to be strong, then first of all, what they're supposed to do is gather the trust of the citizens. And yes, you cannot afford to do any technological loopholes. You need to have strongest of the strongest firewalls and other mechanisms so that the banking transaction is very transparent and your customers are safe. I think that's a real challenging one, as you said. But we have a long way to go. But we have no options. We have to bring in technology, and we have to fight this. The negatives of banking technology also. Thank you for that question.
There is another similar question from a student named Trisha. Is it possible to combine the ethics of banking procedures in the field of banking operations with the sources of financial crisis? The relationship between financial crisis and ethics in banking industry.
As I said here, ethics is something which is a bread and butter for any sector, right? Ethics tells you, right, basically, it's actually combined with the corporate governance. There's a word called as corporate governance and ethics, which in India, as I said, is really amazing when it comes to ethical operations of the banking. But here, I'm not concerned about the ethics of the operation, but there are so many other things which are linked with the, banking is not functioning properly about it. I also read somewhere, correct me if I'm wrong, please, ma'am, that ethics and other things, is also a kind of an issue in Bangladesh banking currently, right? And that is very, very important. First, I think that is where we have to set it right when all other things come into the picture. For example, there are cases about a lot of banking money being misutilized by the top management and other things. That is absolutely unethical, as you said. I think probably corporate governance and business ethics will play a game-changing role. For this, your central bank, I mean, your regulatory bank should play a major role. And I was very happy to listen to one of the a director or a governor of Central Bank of Bangladesh who had come to that particular conference as a chief guest. I'm sorry that I couldn't remember his name, but then he gave a wonderful presentation of the banking scenarios, in what ways the government and the central bank can join hands together to bring in more ethical practices. And yes, as you said, it is some directly or indirectly linked with the financial crisis. If this is taken care, I'm not saying completely financial crisis will be taken care, but otherwise it's very important. Need of the hour to bring in more ethical practices in banking sector. not only in Bangladesh, in all the country for that matter.
Sir, I do have a question for you. You talked about specialization while describing the export-import, the international trade type, and also the Swadeshi impact in your country. So how do you balance that? Country-wide specialization, export-import, and Swadeshi products that you use? Or is this the reason why India stopped exporting onion to our country?
Okay. No. The situation currently is such thing that, as I said, Swadeshi is fine at some moment of time, but then in the long run, Swadeshi will not help any country. Let me be very clear in that. You need to have a very strong relationship with other countries. And if you're talking about onion crisis, is a crisis in India itself. So naturally, we can only export or import that which we have, first of all, at our level, right? So currently, the agricultural product itself in a dangerous situation in India. And if you remember that, some of the basic agricultural products we are actually importing from other countries. Agricultural activity has drastically fallen down in our country. I'm very sorry to say that. At one point of time, it was a leading contributor to the GDP in 1980s and all. Now, I don't even see where are the agricultural contribution to the GDP. So yes, and even though our own farmers are in a big distress because of the price factors, because of the middlemen, and so on. Okay. But your question, yes, we have to balance the globalization plus being local or being Swadeshi. The Swadeshi is not a government-run movement; it is a citizen-run movement. Okay, like for example, my wife is purely Swadeshi. She absolutely doesn't want to get into any products which are not belonging to India. So it's a movement which is self-run by the citizens. But then government cannot run this as something which you have to protect your country. In the long run, you cannot be local for vocal. You have to have a global. As I said, you need to be really local and try to improvise your relationship with everyone. That's very, very important. Balancing is a key factor.
Thank you so much, sir. A question came from my honorable colleague, Dr. Madam. Economy at present faced a distress for COVID pandemic, and export faced a decreasing rate. So now, how bank helped to enhance the export? What is the contribution of the banking sector to fight this pandemic situation?
Absolutely. Bank has a big role to play. First of all, let me tell you, most of the countries, banking itself is in trouble right now. Banking situation itself in trouble. If you like, if you talk about India, the banking situation is not that great actually, with a lot of rising NPAs, the non-performing assets, and there's so many things. So first of all, let's find out ways and means to strengthen the banking system. So when you strengthen the banking system, then the banks can actually contribute to those things which are linked to the banking activity. So currently what is happening here is government and all institutions are working towards transforming the banking sector. So once the banking sector is come to the normalcy, wherein, good to go situation, probably then banking will come up in association with the government of India or any of the government for that matter and bring in policies, measures to import. You rightly said how bank, help to enhance the export. They will definitely come with the measures to increase your exports, and banks will have to finance those people who are engaged in international trade activity. But for that, the banking sector has to come in a proper manner right now, which is otherwise in the most volatile conditions. Currently, we are following like a wait and watch policy. So there's a big team who are working towards transforming the banking sector on a priority basis. Post that, other activities can be brought into the picture. Yes.
Thank you so much. A good student of mine, Susan, has sent another question, but this will two more questions to go. We won't be able to take any more questions because of our time constraint. So the last two questions for you, sir. First one is question on the international trade issue. Is the Cold War between USA and China already started? What are the implications of the rest of the world? I think he is indicating to the underdeveloped and developed countries like ours.
Yes, I believe it's good for us. It will definitely not be good for some, but it will be definitely good for many. Because of this, US and China has always been a kind of, fighting against the trade wars. Other countries, especially as you rightly said, the developing or emerging economies will take the benefit of trade now, the trade tariffs. So that's what I was mentioning about the next 10, what are the important factors that's going to change is one thing is definitely about the tariffs. And those tariffs, which India, country like other Asian countries will be benefited, and probably we will have a more enhanced relationship with other countries, including USA and that is going to be a boon for some country, and that is going to be a bane for some country. That's for sure. But for all the emerging and underdeveloped and developing countries, I find this as a good sign.
Thank you so much. This is the last question for today's session. I'm extremely sorry for the time constraint. This question is from my honorable colleague Zinatul Mama Madam. She is saying organizations are losing their foreign buyers continuously during this pandemic. Economies experience a significant number of job retrenchment, and in this case, what are the steps the government should take?
That's a pretty sad state of affairs everywhere, I believe. Even not only in national level it is happening, even our own non-residents who are working in other countries are also losing the job at this point of time. The government has a lot of things to do. We are all worried about the job retrenchment which is happening. Some are happy that they're in the jobs, but the salaries has not been paid from the last 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. They're all struck, but at least they're happy that their job is still there. But there are a lot of people who have lost jobs in other countries, have come back to our country, and people in our country over there. I mean, this is not only happening in India, it's happening everywhere. It's happening everywhere. Government, frankly speaking, is not in any position to help right now because of its own situation. But then, as I always said, it will take some time. The government will definitely is doing a lot of activity to transform the banking sector, transform the economic policies, and transform the economic conditions where the job market will be back to normal. For example, they will start encouraging more and more startups, more and more entrepreneurial support, so that from job seekers we can all become job creators tomorrow, right? This I would not like to comment too much because the case is really, really bad, and I think we as a citizens should be happy that we are alive. First thing, we should be happy. Somebody other day that I asked, he said, "I'm not worried about the job that I lost. I'm happy that I'm alive." So this is the thing which people are talking today. So transformations will happen. We will get the jobs. We will get our conditions back to the normal. But at least crores of people have died across the globe. So at least let us be happy that we are alive. Things will come back to the normal very soon. But yes, government is a big task to go. Right now, the government focus is on the vaccine. I hope the same thing in Bangladesh. Everyone's eye, the major priority is on the vaccine. Let that come. Everything else will be in the normal situation.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for your lively presentation and valuable time to us. And I would hope that we will get the opportunity to host you here in Dhaka International University. We will be delighted to do so. Before ending the program, I'd request Honorable Vice Chancellor of Dhaka International University, Professor Dr. K. Mohsin, sir. K. Mohsin, sir, some end notes, please. Sir, you need to
unmute yourself.
We can hear you, sir. Sir, you are muted again. Sir, you are unmute, sir. You need to unmute yourself. So there is a mic sign there in your screen. I think you need to click on that.
Oh, I see. Thank you very much. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
In fact, Dhaka International University has taken time-befitting initiative in organizing this international lecture series virtually amid this pandemic. This type of lectures will make a strong international collaboration, and students will also be immensely benefited from international resource persons. I would like to thank Professor Guruprasad Rao, Principal Trisha Vidya College of Commerce and Management, for this evening's wonderful lecture on banking and international trade. I am sure our students will get insightful knowledge and from this knowledge lecture. Thank you, Professor Rao, for your valuable time and connecting us virtually from India during these critical times.
I consider it as a great privilege and honor from my side, sir. It was really a pleasure meeting all of you and interacting with your students.
Thank you so much. So that will be the end of our session. Thank you so much, Professor Guruprasad Rao. Thank you so much for joining hands with us. We always hope that this
national series, and this is very helpful for our students. I hope this initiative will be continued to accelerate this standard of the university. Thank you very much, and good night to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for your valuable time and for your guidance. With the hope that Department of Business Administration, Dhaka International University will arrange more programs like this, more international collaboration, and we will have Professor Guruprasad Rao again in our online sessions. And also after the vaccines, we can have you here physically and get to host you here. So with that note, I'm Sadia Mahjabeen. I'll be signing off and declare the end of today's session. Thank you so much.
Thank you.